So our topic is depression and suicide. So our theme of our poster is Be a Light. So suicide is the second leading cause of death in the world for those aged 15 through 24. So commonly high school kids and young adults. Suicide is the fourth leading cause of death for adults 18 through 65. Believe it or not, firearms is the most common cause that people use for suicide. Females attempt suicide 3 times more often than males. And males are more successful at it. They're actually 4 times higher than females.
So depression is a disease that can affect anybody. It doesn't really care socioeconomic status, how successful you are. Robin Williams was one of the most famous actors, comedians, happiest people you would ever see. He still suffered from depression. He still chose to end his life because it didn't matter to him that he was rich, successful, wealthy, that it didn't change the way he felt. Having thoughts of suicide isn't unusual or shameful. Most people who experience even intense suicidal moments recover and they can go on to live fulfilling lives. Certain factors like substance abuse and untreated depression can lead to a higher rise in suicide. This is people turning to drugs, alcohol, methamphetamines, any kind of escape they can get from the depression they're in. This is a road you don't want to go down. This can lead to darker paths for you in the future. Depression affects over 300 million people worldwide, regardless of culture, age, gender, religion, race, or economic status. Like I said, this affects every culture. It affects people of every class. It doesn't matter. It's a disease. It's not a sign of weakness. And it's one of the most debilitating conditions in the world. Severe depression is rated in the same disability category as terminal stage cancer. This is something that can stick with you for a long time. This is something you should choose to seek help for.
Some warning signs of suicide are going to be a sense of hopelessness or no hope for the future, a drastic change in mood and behavior, isolation or feeling alone, so they're going to isolate themselves from their friends and family, engaging in risky behaviors, frequently talking about death, self-harm like cutting, substance abuse is probably one of the number one, and negative view on self.
Depression looks like a loss of energy. These people don't want to do anything. Oftentimes they want to just stay in bed. They lose interest or pleasure in the things they normally enjoy doing. They have difficulty sleeping, low self-esteem. They can have an increased or decreased appetite. They avoid contact with friends and family. Risk factors do not cause or predict a suicide. Rather, they are characteristics that make it more likely an individual will consider, attempt, or die by suicide. There's no one single cause for suicide. Females experience depression roughly 2 times the rate of men. In 2017, around 17.3 million adults age 18 or older in the U.S. had experienced at least one major depressive episode.
Something that kind of really stuck out to us while we were doing research on this is 12 minutes. So depression is the primary reason why somebody dies of suicide every 12 minutes. So that's roughly about 41,000 people a year. And we're kind of thinking like, we compare that to watching a TV series. So a Netflix show is roughly about 50 minutes. That's 4 people on average dying every 50 minutes. So every episode on Netflix that you're watching. We never want people to feel alone. If you feel like you can't talk to somebody, we put up here the National Crisis Hotline, the main number. We also have the text line. Some people don't like talking and would rather text. Some people feel like they can't go to friends and family because they're embarrassed about the way that they feel. We also have handouts that have stuff for veterans, that have LGBTQ on it. There's millions of people out there who are willing, who are ready to talk to people who are trained. If you don't want to talk, there are texts that you can do. So if you want to pick those up, like you can. If not even for yourself, but if you know somebody who might be suffering or thinking about it, those are good resources to have on hand for those types of people. Another thing that we were really passionate about is the Project Semicolon. It's a nonprofit organization that builds hope for these kinds of people, people with depression, people with suicide, people who self-injure, and people with just a mental illness in general, to try to let them know that there's still hope after. A semicolon is used by an author when a story could have ended or where a period could be, and the semicolon represents that their story isn't over yet. and your story isn't over yet.